There it is.
Got it. We are recording.
Hello. Good morning, Kelly. I'm Ben Casey, fire protection engineer.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Kidwell, fire protection engineer.
What are we talking about today, Kelly?
Fire protection memes.
All right. What do how are we organizing them?
So I've been doing these fire protection memes for about 2 years now, I think, roughly. And LinkedIn shows me the past year of top performing posts. I have a couple more, I think, that are actually better performing than these that I did 2 years ago, but for now, we're just gonna check out our top last year's best fire protection memes, starting with
So as memer in chief, here we go. Drum roll.
drum roll, the
Are
0 days without someone calling it a sprinkler head meme.
you going to show a picture of it
Yeah,
or
let me
something?
let me share the screen.
So this is the whole sprinkler versus head uh conundrum.
Sprinkler versus head. Like I don't know. I personally do not, and we should probably not show faces or names. But I personally don't have much of a dog in this fight. If someone says head or sprinkler, I know what they're talking about. And especially when you're in the field, I feel like everyone calls it a head, but there are some fire protection engineers who are just adamant, like, don't call it a sprinkler head. It's called a sprinkler or a fire sprinkler or an automatic sprinkler. And I kind of agree. There's no need to like write it out, sprinkler head. Like it's redundant. Everyone knows what you're talking about when you say sprinkler, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think in writing, don't call it a head, but if you're going to just verbally talk about it, then I don't think there's a problem there, obviously. But I don't think it's in the code anywhere that says you can't or can't provide say it's a head, but it definitely is called a sprinkler everywhere in all the standards, etc.
Yeah, well, and someone in the comments actually looked it up and did a screenshot of like search for sprinkler head in NFPA 13, and there are 0 results returned. So there's definitely a specific, like, the committee is not allowing sprinkler head to be in NFPA 13. And then someone else actually found the original patent from 1800 or whatever. See if I can pull it up, where it says sprinkler head in the original patent. So I don't
So
know.
they've all been proven wrong.
Jury's out.
Well, that's interesting. And when was the original patent for? Can you find it?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now.
It's
I'm
got to
having
be
technical
late
difficulties.
late 1800s, I would guess.
There it is.
1890s.
Uh, it was 17 years from the 8th day of January, 1918. So 1918.
1918. Okay.
Automatic sprinkler dash heads. Maybe that's what we've been doing wrong. It has to be dash heads. Sprinkler dash head. Then it's proper.
There you go.
That's what we've been doing wrong all this time.
Well, that's some good proof right there. I don't know. That may win the argument, honestly. Maybe the standards and code committees have been doing it wrong now for 50 years. Maybe it changed at some point, like the early NFPA 13 had head in it and someone just switched it out.
Someone's spreading there. Someone replied with this meme. Hmm. And at least my unscientific polling of, a construction site I've been working on lately, everyone prefers, They're cutting in heads. They're not cutting in sprinklers or sprinkler heads.
Yeah, it's a contractor thing. It seems like more of an installer say heads than they do say sprinkler. I don't know. I think the patent argument wins it.
All
Sprinkler, the little
right.
guy with the head popping out. All right, what's the next one? That is the top, what, engagement? Amount
Top
of comments?
top impressions.
What does that mean?
A number of people who've seen it
Okay,
on LinkedIn. So that's got
25,000.
25,000 impressions. Oops.
And what is number two?
Number two is this is a genre of meme that tends to do really well is dogging on architects. So sorry, architect friends, but making fun of you gives me a lot of impressions. We love you, but we also love to make fun of you. So everyone's been there getting yelled at an architect who wants the atrium to not be an atrium. And this one did well because it was right after the Super Bowl where the Taylor Swift boyfriend guy is yelling at his coach, and the coach is just closing his eyes, making this face, being very stoic.
Yeah. And well, so it's yeah, architects who wants to call an atrium a communicating space. I mean,
Hmm.
this could be less about architects and more about people excited about this atrium topic because everyone tends to bring it up as an example every single time. Um, because it could be a communicating space, a light well on top of a two-story opening, whatever you can say when it's not an atrium. So, but yeah, Travis Kelsey yelling at his coach about it not being an atrium is interesting. I always wonder, like, do more architects end up calling it an atrium, or do they not call it an atrium and we are always arguing that it actually is one and they can't get around the code? I'm not sure which
Yeah,
one of those sides.
that's where I was coming from. And of course all my memes are based on personal experience. So I have personally experienced, a situation where they truly, what they've designed is an atrium and it's going to require, extra protections like smoke control or, enclosure of the upper levels. And they want to have their cake and eat it too. They want an atrium, but they don't want to have to do the atrium requirements.
Yeah. I feel like that part of the code is so complex too, with like exceptions for closely spaced sprinklers equaling a 1 hour separation that is tried to be it's people try to take that requirement and apply it in other places where they're not allowed to. It's just like it's become this monstrously complex, like unique, specific area of the code that maybe they could simplify in some way to avoid all of this craziness.
Yes, and misunderstanding and misinterpretation and
And probably the
yeah.
amount of money spent just dealing with that one issue, like for just time paid by clients, probably an absurd amount. So,
Yes. And also, I don't know, the other thing that probably is it's more of an architect problem and less of our problem, but just clients being indecisive and dragging out decisions that we need to like move the design forward, especially on the MEP side, really messing up project budgets
yeah.
and schedules.
All right, next one.
Next,
25,000 for the first one is a lot of impressions. And we're already down to 11. So that first one was
11,000.
that much higher. It was almost twice as many.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
interesting.
other thing is like the sprinkler people on LinkedIn, they come out in numbers. I think my actual top performing post is like 28,000 impressions and it's a sprinkler related post.
I always think reposts are funny too, especially when it's not like related to any company. It's interesting. All right, where are we at? What's the next one?
All right, we're at another
Communist Bug Bunny.
communist Bugs Bunny, another one making fun of architects. So it says when the architect keeps the life safety scope, but the AHJ comes back with 200 comments. And it's the communist Bugs Bunny architect saying to the FPE, our comments. Like, yep, now that you've gone and messed up the life safety design of your building, you want to come to the fire protection engineer to come and save you, help you get through the permit process because the HJ is giving you a million comments.
Well, everybody's experienced this too. It's probably why they're into it. But
Yep.
that's a pretty good impression, though. Yes, our comments. I mean, how many times have you run into this? I guess it's one of those things that you just expect on projects, and so you just have sort of on-call consulting in there in some way. That's a way we've addressed it in the past, because you know that there's going to be issues that come up even if they don't necessarily want to offload that scope. And then I feel like it's sometimes the principals might want to include that fee for the architects, but then the actual registered licensed architect on the job doesn't necessarily want to deal with some of the code issues. So when it comes down to actually, completing the project, they're happy to work with fire protection engineers, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's just funny too, because it's like, all right, what's our obligation as a professional, like ethics wise, when you have maybe just a sprinkler and fire alarm design scope, but you see the floor plans and you know there's going to be an issue just because you're working, you see a dead end that's like 100 feet long. Like, what would you do, Ben? Like, would you call the architect and say, hey, you might want to check your code compliance on these drawings?
Yeah, I guess that's what you would do, but and are you well, in some way, if there's a fire protection engineer in the job, even in some instances, it might be assumed that it was your scope after the fact if something's missed. So it's a tricky one. I mean, like I feel like ADA kind of runs into this often, where a lot of fire protection engineering firms don't do any ADA consulting, accessibility consulting, and then it ends up getting grouped in when there's an issue into like whatever life safety code related review was done. So it's a
Yeah,
tricky one.
I personally don't touch ADA stuff with like a 10-foot pole. But yeah, that's the same thing too. Like, even though I don't know ADA, I can like tell when something's not quite right or if it's going to be an issue. But yeah, I
Or
don't have that expertise.
if it's related to accessibility from the ICC, then it may
Right.
come up anyway. All right, let's keep going. We on the fourth one.
Keep chucking number 4.
See, these are sort of around the same number.
Yeah,
Impression.
this one exploded, and maybe it didn't get the number of impressions that the others got, but it certainly got a lot of engagement. Um, so it
This one's more
says,
recent, isn't it?
mm, no, this is almost a year ago.
Okay.
Um, so it's the little monkey claymation or puppet guy. I'm not sure, but he's like from the old show where he's like kind of got the side eye and then he like looks forward like, you know what I'm talking about, that monkey guy meme. It says, the professional organizations, we have to combat the copyright infringement of tech companies who use our codes and standards for apps without paying. And then it says FPEs with no plans to stop using upcodes. And they go,
Yeah, well, yeah, because a lot of people would be somewhat screwed if they weren't able to use it. It would just cost way more money to do the work to try to figure out the code basis. But I guess that's how everybody used to do it. So, you know, maybe you have to go back to square one. I mean, the whole copyright thing is, it's frustrating. I don't necessarily know the right answer. I do know, like in Canada, it's not a private organization. Um, and so, but they end up handling codes on a pretty consistent cycle. I know that I've heard that it's been delayed a few times, I guess similar to the issues that ADA runs into, the accessibility requirements run into with the government handling those and kind of missing revision cycles and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I think they stick to a schedule and they stick to the updates much better because it's a private organization.
Right.
Um,
Things move forward. I just wonder, like, and I guess I'm not super familiar with how, you know, international FPEs do things. And it sounds like even Canada, just, our neighbors in North America do it almost completely differently than we do. But in America, like in the US, we have our professional organization, like the ICC and FPA. They have their committees, they have volunteers from all different industries, um, owners, special experts, aka us, the fire protection engineers, the manufacturers, and then the AHJs are on the committees. So you have kind of the different interests represented. And then, the states and local governments will adopt the codes and standards that are developed by them. So in like internationally, is that not the case? Like they just have the government does all the codes without like input from subject matter experts, and there's just like some guy who's like the director of codes development who makes the final call on like what the
no, I,
actual code changes are.
no, you still have to join like correlating committees and that kind of thing, but it's not copyrighted. It's not privately owned. It's federally funded. It's public money that's supporting the effort.
Okay, so it would be like if instead of having our, model codes orgs, we would have
Right.
instead a government agency.
Yeah, right. But
And you
it's
still
like,
have,
but how would the private one make any money, right, if it wasn't copyrighted in some way and had to be purchased? So yeah, it's a
right,
tricky issue to get around.
right. And in the
What
past, it
were
was all hard copy, so it was like not even an issue. Like you just literally had to
right?
buy the books, or you could go to the library and check them out, and or not check them out maybe, but like go to the library and get them for free. So like, I mean, the laws need to be accessible to people for free. So like, I can understand that argument of having them online accessible for people now that we have the technology to do that. But it's also at the same time like, I don't know, do we want these model code organizations to fail and not function anymore and then have to go to like a government model?
I don't
And then
know.
how do they do that in Canada, like with this provinces? Did do provinces have like their own, or is it all just federal?
I think provinces are like states and they adopt it with amendments, basically.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. Well, what are some of the comments on this one, like top comments? Is any good insights? I mean, you get how
So,
upcodes works. Like once it's adopted as
yeah,
law, then it can't be copyrighted anymore.
right. You need to give
Um,
access to the people who are subject
right.
to the law. So I don't know, just coming from, receiving the official communications from the code organizations, I was under the impression that most FPEs were like, oh yeah, like we need to support our code orgs and like, be in support of this, because they will send out emails to their members and be like, we need your support. But so many fire protection engineers here were like, it's the law. Like we should have access to the codes. And I just was thinking that I didn't think that would be a strong reaction on this post. We
Well,
had, I mean,
it looks like somebody put in an actual Fifth Circuit court ruling, which is
yeah, and
interesting.
then an actual lawyer replying. Yeah. And
Interesting.
then I guess the other thing to mention is like, yes, the code organizations have access to their codes digitally on their websites, but the user interface is garbage, in my opinion. And if they're going to be charging users, or I guess competing with other organizations like, Silicon Valley companies who are making these apps, um, they're not doing a good job competing because their product is just inferior. Like the AI features and the organizational features of upcodes is like way better than anything that the model code orgs have put out. It's just a nightmare to navigate in their system.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's definitely a fight that goes back and forth. But obviously, they need funding somehow. So it's either going to have to
Right.
be governmental or it's going to have to be through people purchasing it. I mean, unless they do some kind of Wikipedia model where there's donations or something, I don't really know what the solution is,
I
other than
don't think
changing
that
the
would work.
entire way it works.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Hmm.
I guess we'll see. Like, I mean, they still have membership dues that people are members of the org. So, but that only goes so far, especially when you're trying to, I mean, the cost of developing these codes and standards is probably like way high.
Yeah. So what number was that? Was that 4 or 5?
I think that was 4.
All right, let's go to 5.
But yeah, if anyone would like to see the comments, you're more than welcome to follow me on LinkedIn and scroll through all those and add your own thoughts. All right, number 5, last one. I made this meme during the Olympics when Snoop Dogg was like all over. So it's the Snoop Dogg at the Olympics with his little jacket and raising his sunglasses and kind of making a face. And I said, my face when the recruiter message says they love my experience at a company I've never worked for.
Don't think I've seen that happen that often, but I could see that. Actually, no, now that I think about it, that's true. Those are probably the recruiters that you just don't connect with, right? You just sort of
Yeah.
ignore completely. And so it's not that memorable. Usually it's sort of obvious that they're not really professional recruiters. They might just be like sort of mass messaging people from some other country or some sort of long, I don't know, risky type recruiting activity.
Well,
Um,
I think it's also just like particularly uh, rings true with fire protection engineers because we all get so many recruiter messages compared to maybe like other professions where they're not as highly recruited as we are. I've
yeah.
definitely got a couple where they're like, "Oh, love your experience at ABC company." I'm like, I've never worked for the ABC company before. Delete.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot more recruiting requests, and then so, to try to keep people within an organization and not have them jumping around all over the place, you have to offer some special deals. I mean, it's supply and demand type situation. So obviously recruiters are taking advantage of that because they make money on the churn. So whenever
Yeah,
anybody comes up with some special way of doing things, or they're looking for a fire protection engineer in some unique position, it's usually like recruiter crazy trying to get them into it. I also get a lot of asks by recruiters like, "Are you looking for people?" Because I have somebody. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but like unsolicited recruitment requests come in quite
yeah.
often as well.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, well, I'm not a manager of any type, so I've never experienced that side of it before, but yeah,
and
I
it's
also
always
feel
like,
like hiring is always an issue, even like, places that I've worked in the past and we're trying to hire someone to join the team. I mean, even like right now, I'm going through it again. It's so difficult to make the HR reps understand kind of like the uniqueness that is fire protection because there's so few of us and such a high demand. It's almost like you have to be constantly looking and having an application, like a position open, so that if someone good applies for it, you're like, okay, we need to hire this person because they're good, and we'll figure it out how to keep them busy after we hire them
yeah,
because we know we're going to need more people, and let's like scoop up someone good while we can. But HR is just kind of like, no, I want to have this position. And because I'm rated on how quickly I fill positions, I'm only going to keep it open for like whatever, 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever. And then we're going to hire someone from it. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case, too, because I feel like for fire protection, you also get a lot of people applying who might not like understand that fire protection is its own kind of specialized thing. Or if you're like a design firm and you get someone kind of from the compliance realm applying to your design position, and they might not understand that that's not a great fit for them. So I've
Yeah.
definitely run into that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive to use an outside recruiter, but sometimes people are at such a loss as to how to find. So, I mean, if you can get a recruiter that knows the industry, it could be worth it. I actually think it's interesting how many firms don't offer a recruitment bonus to staff. It seems like that's like a very large firm activity, not smaller ones. And, smaller ones end up using outside recruiters quite often. So it's sort of an interesting, I guess if you're not always hiring and you're a smaller firm, it's tricky to offer those kind of bonuses, but they're definitely worth it um, compared to paying these costs. So good meme, like it. Snoop Dogg
Can't,
is always good on a meme.
I know. I mean, the expressions are priceless.
You got to get him dancing though. He's good in that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I
Guess
guess
it's
I
not
need to
meme
do more
material, more
more
GIFs.
animated memes with the GIFs.
Yeah,
I've only done
GIFs,
a couple of
GIFs,
those
GIFs.
GIFs. I think it's GIFs.
I think it's GIFs. I think it was originally GIFs, and now everyone says GIFs, and I have this argument all the time. But anyway, that's for another show. So next time we go through 6 through 10, and we'll see what's next on the list. We'll also try to get some from the original year as well, so we can figure out the tops from that. Because there's been 2 years at this point of the memer in chief stirring things up in the fire protection community. All right, Kelly.
All
Talk to you
right,
later.
Ben.
Bye.